Where are you right now? Because I'm here, and it is good to be here. And it feels good to be here, and it feels like I haven't been with you in so long. But where are you? Are you in your brain? You on the earth? You feeling stuff out? Are you where you're meant to be? And I don't mean that as like, are you avoiding your curfew? What I mean is, are you in the moment that you are meant to be living in right now? Or are you thinking ahead to 2046? Or are you still thinking back to 2020, but all the different things that you should have done? I think on the series that I'm trying to take you through, what I'm trying to really focus in on is making sure that we're building up proper habits. And a lot of that does start with just being where you are. We can come up with all these different habits for all these different things that we want to do, but all of that is to serve like a future self or is to try, build on the past self. And we're so stuck in either time zones. We're either ahead of ourselves or we're either behind ourselves, but we're never where we are. So anyway, man, I'm back. I'm back in Dunedin, and I'm here. And I don't know, man. I'm a little bit nervous to record this one. I feel like it's been quite a while since I've done a solo one. So obviously, with how everything was going in Wellington and just enjoying my summer, I didn't come on and do a solo episode. So I was hoping to go alternating between solo guest. But obviously, I went 2 guests in a row. But that also was for Jess Woodnorth, who actually started her own podcast. So that was. So she kind of made the announcement on that podcast. So I didn't want that one to come out in like March or April, and she's like, I've got an announcement, but the podcast has been going for like 3 months, so that's why I kind of moved that one in there. So it just worked out really well for me because it also gave me that space to breathe and to enjoy those last moments with my family. And man, I don't want to talk too much about Wellington, but it was the first time that I properly feel like I've had a break. And I felt like that was where I was meant to be. And I think because I wasn't so focused on or worried about where I was, and I was just being in the moment, that's what really made me enjoy it all. I wasn't thinking so much. I wasn't living in my brain, which is where I have a room there, and I'm just living in there all the time. And I've got this body, but most of my thinking, most of my living actually goes on in my brain. So I'm living with the landlord, really. But cool. So yeah, since being back in Dunedin, it's been a full-on week. So I drove all the way down from Dunedin, from Wellington to Dunedin. And I did that all in one day. And from that, it was kind of, I know before I was coming down here, a lot of what I was focusing on was really just trying to get a good routine in place. And what I noticed about being in the present and then also starting to have that, forward thinking, like, yes, I can have all those thinking forward, but all my relationships in that time. So when I was with people and I was thinking about what I had to do to get ready for Dunedin, that just was so anxiety provoking. So that's when I started thinking, with how we want to go about life and how we want to start building up these habits and building up these, just better ways of living with yourself. I really did have to start focusing on just, enjoying those life moments that we have. So while being down here in Dunedin, I had this really cool moment where I went into, as a someone who's finished my PhD now, and going into like an advisory meeting, and I went in there, and some of the people who are sitting around me now are now colleagues. And I remember one of them, and she was a really awesome lecturer as I was coming up, and she also was one of our tutors. And I just remember walking in, and she's just like, "Wow, I remember you when you were a little first year, and you were one of the cheekiest people I've ever come across." And I was just like, "Man, I can't believe I had that sort of impact on people." People remembered the impressions that I had on them, and I've never been one of those people to actually think that I am much when I go into a room. Like every time I go into a room, I always thought I was just the furniture. So to have that was really nice. So like at first when I was like, "Oh, you're calling me cheeky, like is this, are we going to have a problem here?" But actually, because I have a lot of respect for her to say that thing like in front of the entire room was actually quite nice. And it's just kind of a reminder to me that, I'm so stuck in my own head that I don't notice what goes on around me and that other people really do care. So that was awesome. And I mean, I guess summer in New Zealand, just thinking about everything that's going on, so currently as I'm recording this, there are people at One Love, so we're having festivals, and just seeing how lively and how kind of unchanged, I guess life is here in New Zealand. We're just fortunate and so lucky and just so, just very privileged to be able to go about life the way that we are going about it right now. And I guess having a great summer, Also being able to just go wherever we want to go at any time, and not really worrying too much, like with scanning barcodes and all that sort of stuff, and kind of keeping a lookout community-wise, but, just still seeing that other places are locked down. But then, like, another thing that comes out of that is 660 is one of, like, the best bands right now, because they're the only ones selling out big arenas or big spaces with a whole bunch of people. So they're actually facilitating gatherings by playing their music, and BBC picked that up. And without this and without them being able to get that exposure, like, we wouldn't have even known what happened. So that's kind of cool there. Another thing that's also happening, so I went to the gym the other day, and that was really cool. This is all just a kind of little bit of a catch-up, but I forgot my headphones, and this is something that I spoke about in the self-compassion episode, is that I like to hide behind my headphones. It gives me a little bit of a wall. It gives me something to hide behind. It gives me a little bit of shade from actual life, because I can visualize everything that's going on, obviously, as I can see things that are happening. But with my headphones and being able to play music or being able to play stuff that is going on in my head, it allows me to get away from actually facing a lot of what I'm feeling, and it actually kind of distracts me from being able to sit with those thoughts and being able to organize them. It's like when you're in a messy room, and it's almost so messy that you don't want to start putting stuff away because you just, like, don't know where to start. That's almost like where I am in my head when I'm by myself and I don't have my headphones. I start to find other things that I could do so it can distract me from being in that moment. And that's something that we'll get into in this entire episode. But I went to the gym the other day, and I didn't have my headphones. And I freaked out for ages, knowing as soon as I found out I didn't have my headphones, I freaked out for so long. And then what I realized is that I was freaking out about freaking out and freaking out about more freaking out. And in that time, I could have just breathed, just had a little bit of a breath and just gone through my workout. I still got the workout done. I still enjoyed the workout. It was still great, and I'm here on the other side. So that's also very, very positive. That there, I guess, is just like that's the epitome of exposure therapy, Something I was running away from the entire time and trying to avoid at all costs, and it just happened, Maybe something sorted that. And then speaking of things that just happened, another bit of a catch-up. So everyone knows that I've been dealing with, my alcohol consumption and all that sort of stuff. I'm very open about it because I am dealing with it. It's not something that I want to hide. But the other night, I was on my way home, and I was just like, I was going to do the usual Troy thing. I was going to go past the supermarket. I was going to see what was cheap, maybe grab a couple, then go home. On my way to the supermarket, I got a call, and someone wanted to do something with me like early-ish the next morning. So I was just like, damn, if I do drink tonight, that's going to really, I'll feel shit for that, and I don't want to feel shit for that, so maybe I shouldn't. But then obviously something with addiction or like with urges to do something kind of came over me again, and it was just like, yo, have you ever thought about drinking tonight? And that was literally like a couple minutes after I said to myself it was a good idea not to. And then I started justifying and just reasoning with myself, like, what if you get a low alcoholic beverage, or what if you only get a couple? But, everyone knows that's kind of, the broken brain in you will kind of say that sort of thing to you, and everything starts seeming more appealing. So I was like, yeah, good point. Yeah, I can do all that. I can go see what's available. I don't necessarily have to go buy anything, but I can see. So I went in, telling myself those lies. And the one supermarket that no one in my flat ever goes to, they happen to be there. And like, they know that I'm going through the stuff that I'm going through, but like, I feel really embarrassed to go like buy alcohol in front of them. It's not that I worry that they're going to judge me, but at the same time, I'm just like, they know that I'm trying to deal with it as well. So I have that sort of accountability with them. And I was just like, what? They are at this one supermarket? Unreal. So like, that's 2 signs right now. 2. Just kind of getting in the way. And that's a very close succession of one another. So then, yeah, I think it's at that point where, I do believe in a higher being. I definitely believe in a higher being. And a lot of religious folk right now will be saying that that's someone else doing that. And I am starting to believe that there is a higher purpose, and there is a higher being who is doing for me what I can't do for myself. And I do believe that a lot of, where I've come to in this world, a lot of it does come from, I do have things watching out for me, man. Like, I don't want to say that I'm getting too spiritual or too religious with this, but absolutely, like, there are things that I can't explain that happen, and I think we need to be able to take that on board, and whether you believe in it or not, it's nice to have that feeling that something's looking out for you, and it's nice to have that feeling that maybe it is going to be okay. And because me, I'm rattled. I'm that type of person who, when I move around, I seem like everything's all good. And this is something that I've been thinking about a little bit more. Is with the strongest looking people, or with the fittest people, or with the people who are like the best at what they do, everything looks so easy for them. And I think we get so caught up in this mentality that because everything looks easy for them, it's not that difficult, right? They're not struggling. But it's just because they've been doing it over and over and over again that they're never actually really, looking like they're struggling. And that's because they get some sort of autonomy in their movement. And this is not autonomy in the fact of being able to select the movements that they're doing, but more just like automatic. Everything looks so easy. So if you think about all the highest, the best athletes and everything that they do, they look so seamless. All of their movements are super seamless. And because it looks so easy, it looks like they're putting in no effort. But they're still working extremely hard. And I'll give you an example. So when I was in CrossFit, it's one of those things that over the longest period of time, you start to look better, you start to move faster, you start to get fitter. But because you're getting fitter, you actually have greater output overall. So it's not that things are getting easier. It's just that you're getting better and you're able to have greater output. So even though people are looking like it's easy, and this is like, for example, for me, it's not always easy, and everyone's suffering, and all the stuff that we're going through just kind of makes me a bit more hesitant to just assume that everything is okay for everyone. But knowing that we have this higher being, or knowing that we have people around us who are really looking out for us, it does help. And in terms of getting help, I talked to Jess Woodenauth about this, and we were talking about therapy and just being able to get involved with it even when things are good. I emailed my therapist while I was in Wellington, about to come back down, and what I did was I freaked out. I was freaking out about all the transition into new life and to just all that fear with that. So what I did was I emailed her and I organized a couple of sessions in that first week that I got back, just to help me with that routine, just so I knew that I had someone there. It's like an anchor point that I was looking forward to. And this is kind of what's got me through a lot of what I do, is I like to plant little bits in the calendar going forward, so that I can just be like, oh yeah, all I need to do is get forward to that moment there. So I just need to live today, get through it, and then I'll eventually get to there. So that was nice as well. And the drive on the way down, and this is more getting into being in the present, and this is more just, thinking more about this entire episode and the content that we're going to cover in this episode, is on my way down, all I could focus on was being on the road and driving in the car. I didn't have the attention or the bandwidth to be able to focus on anything else that was going on around me, because I was moving so fast that if I was to start focusing on other things, the possibility of me just like losing the plot and going off the road was so high. So yes, I could have those things start to drag me away, and you haven't done this. Oh man, you smell like that. Oh, no one likes you. But if I just kept staying up in my head and thinking about those thoughts rather than thinking about where I was on that road, I'm gone. So at the end of the day, what do you want more? Do you want to keep fulfilling all these thoughts that you have in your head, or do you actually want to live to get through this stuff? And I chose life. I chose life right there. And I needed to focus on that, because I didn't, not only am I endangering myself, but I'm endangering others by being on that road and not actually being on that road, if you feel me. And another thing is just like during that time, you'll probably get it when you do trips, but like you go from 100 kilometers per hour, then you come into a small city and it goes to like 70 and then 50. Relative to how you were going in that time, you feel like you're going so slow, right? So when you go from 100 to the 50, especially like you half your speed, you feel like you're not even moving, and it feels like you're going so slow. The thing is, you actually get to the end. And what I mean by when I'm saying this sort of stuff is that we can't always go super fast, right? Or else you'll burn out. And sometimes when you are going slow, that's not the time to give up, because you're still going somewhere, right? And I ended up making it back down to Dunedin, even though I had multiple times that I was going 50, but you're still moving. Progress is progress. Right, so just before we get into the episode for today, I just want to hit us up and thank you so much to my boy Ray who gave us the intro for today. And the cool thing about this is that this is a song that we have already played, but this man is using his craft to make music a little bit better. So here he is, he's going to take us away on his bass guitar. Damn, you hear him making that word. He's just playing around with us right now. He's warming up.
You got me preaching on the beat about my brother JC. See the sun up in the heavens, it's so closer than me. You know I believe that love is growing a tree. Take a fly from the fruit that I'm stolen with me. He said fly to my booth, now we're falling so free. So I'm fly to my God, that's the Trinity. Gassed up on the love I can't proclaim enough. But now I pray this love. We living days by trust them. Living days by trust them.
Oh, man, and there is nothing rude about that whatsoever. I think the only rude thing about that is that it was just so short. I could have gone an entire song about that, but you remember that song, that is the Shaq Graham song, and we'll play that at the end of this episode, but you remember that, Who the Sun Sets Free. And we got that one on Spotify, so if you want to go see S.G. But then that is a little bit of a remix from our boy. If you go follow him on Instagram at RaymonDune. Go check that out. We'll tag him and everything as well. But, with them licks, gosh, if only his name was Ricky, we could call him Licky Ricky. And that reminds me of a game that we used to play at school called Lick It. Basically, you just look at something yuck and say lick it and see if anyone licked it. Anyway, that's tangent. But yeah, that's the cool thing about that is that he took the song and he's focusing on his craft and he's getting his craft out there. There's a lot of us who are putting more content out there, but then there's a lot of us who are super, super talented and we're so scared of putting stuff out there because, what about this? What about that? What if these people don't like it? What if man, when we're in the moment and you're just enjoying what you're doing and you love what you do, even if you share it with people and people don't like it, it's okay because you love it. You really, really like it. Right. So let's get into the episode today. Basically, I wanted to talk about being in the prison a little bit more. And I want to start with the story that kind of made me think about this a little bit more. So one summer, and the only reason I bring up summer is because I thought about it when I was in my car ride back home. And yeah, I was thinking about, this one time I finished the summer with my dad, and just a side note, my dad actually said to me, this is the happiest he's ever seen me. And that, that means a lot because not that I aim for happiness or anything, but I just really, I just do want to feel good. I really do want to feel good. And to hear that I, am seeming a lot more happier, it means a lot to me. Like, it's almost like someone told me they're proud of me, and that's basically because I can be proud of myself, knowing that I'm doing what I can to try get me into that position, just to be, happier and just to be positive and just to know that the world is not always the worst place to be, and that it's actually cool to be here, and that I can make the most of everything that's happening. And I do thank a lot of the people who are involved with my summer. But yeah, there was that. But I know a couple of years ago when I just wasn't as self-aware, I guess, of what I was doing. I remember this one time, my dad dropped me off to the airport to fly back down to Dunedin, and something like leading up to dropping me down, something didn't go my way. And I was just a fucking dickhead. Like, I was such a dick to him, and I was just telling him, like, I was really mean. Didn't like hug him goodbye, or I did, and I didn't say bye properly, and I just remember leaving. And then I remember getting through security, and I looked back, and he was still standing there, and I just remember I think something came over me where I was just like, imagine if that was the last time that I got to see my dad. And because I was so focused on, the negativity, and I was just so focused on what didn't go my way, that could have been that last moment. Just imagine, like, I know that's really full on, and you don't want to ever think about close ones like that just leaving, but if that was the last time, I don't think I could have lived with myself, because it's horrible, and it's not something that I should have had to put him through just because, he's always doing the best that he can, but because I was so in my head thinking about all these different things that were going on, I couldn't be there with him, and I almost missed out on a life moment. And And I just remember getting on the plane and I just had to text him. And as I was texting, those ones where you're just like thinking about all the things that are going on and you just want to tell him that, you really do care. I'm sorry that I did that. And you just start crying. And yeah, all of that stuff just started happening. And I just remember from that point on, I'm like, when I'm with my dad, I need to make the most of that time. And it starts by just showing up. And when you show up, you're there, right? Like when you show up, you're not in your head, you're not on your phone, you're not thinking about all the other things that could be happening. You're there. You're in that thinking about everything that could be happening, and you're there. You're just showing up. You're feeling that breeze as it goes past you. You're feeling the ground under you, and you're feeling like what it's like to be on that seat, and you're feeling all those different emotions. I think we're so busy planning life, and we're so busy wondering what it's like and wondering if life will ever get better. And that's focusing on other things. But we need to bring that attention to now. And I remember for the longest time, and I don't know if this is a real fact, but I remember it's in nearly every single book that you're reading on like mindfulness and all that sort of stuff. But the biggest thing when people are on their deathbed is that they just feel like they never really lived a full life because they were always so busy planning for different things. They were like, oh, I need to get that, I need to get this, and then once I get that, I need to get that, and then I need to do this, and blah, 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 blah. But then when they get to their deathbed, because they were never planning for that, they start to realize, damn, in this moment, I was so dying to live, right? But they basically were living to die. And I made that up right on the spot. So if that's a song, I'm sorry that I ripped it off, but it just kind of hit me. We're just dying. And we're not actually living the life because we're so busy looking forward to where we could be. And I think that's the biggest regret that most people would have on their deathbed. And I don't know that for sure, but I have read that somewhere. But I think that's like a constant thing that people always talk about. But I mean, we're always constantly living in limbo, right? So the world and where it is like, okay, I'm doing this and I'm doing that and I'm doing this. But if you actually properly look at the hours that you have in a day, can you actually tell me exactly what you were doing? And can you actually tell me exactly how you were feeling in those different moments? Probably not, because we're always in our head. We live in our heads, and we're always planning different things. And I think a lot of it, so this is going to come back to the resolution stuff that we do. A lot of the resolutions that we set and a lot of the things that we do to try and make our lives better, it's almost like these little additional things that we want to put onto our lives because we think they will give us a better, they'll just give us more power in this world. I want to make this much more money so that I can get this, and this. Focusing on material possessions. Or I want to go to the gym this many times a day so that I can have this body, so that I can wear these different things. Right? So we're always in the process of different things, but we're never actually enjoying where we are. Right? We're always looking forward to, okay, when I get that, I can finally be happy. But the thing is, sad thing is, that's our lying brain. That brain is lying to you. When you get that, you will be happy. I'm getting older now, and I've started to achieve a lot of the things that I thought would make me happy when I was 22, 23. And I'm still living in that constant state of just wanting more because I'm not satisfied and because I'm not happy with what I've got. So I'm kind of taking a little bit from the Buddha here, or the Buddhism is just I don't want anything. I shouldn't want anything because I have everything. I'm so damn fortunate. I have a family that loves me. I have a lot of people who want to give me the time to listen to this damn podcast. So sometimes I need to just start being grateful for everything. And it always comes back to gratitude. But I mean, I guess everything that we go through in life, it's almost like we're fear-based. All of our resolutions is just because we want to avoid that sense of feeling inadequate. I don't know if I'm only speaking for myself, but I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people who agree with me right now, and just knowing that, we do a lot of what we do so that we can maybe feel like we are adequate. A lot of the things that we want to try and achieve is actually because, it's fear-based. Everything that we do, there's not enough time. Oh, I got to do this. Oh, I haven't done that. I have to do this. We worry, we plan, and we strategize, but the things that we worry and plan and strategize about are things that are going to avoid getting us into trouble, right? They're the things that we want to do, so we do just enough so that no one can call us out on not being good enough. We always try to avoid those different things. rather than living the life that we actually want to live. We're so worried about the expectation of everyone else that we never live in the moment. And the funny thing is, when you live in the moment, you not only are happier towards yourself, but you're also doing better outputs because you know where you are in that moment. And I guess we just get consumed in the identity of not doing enough or not being enough that we then mask it all. So this is where it all comes in. It's like we have these strategies, we have these plans, we have all these different things, and they seem like good things. They seem like, yeah, but I'm doing this, I'm working on that. But the thing is, you're running yourself into the ground. And then from there, you mask it because you're just like, you can rationalize with yourself that actually this is okay to do. I can do that. I'm allowed to do that because it's a good thing and it's progressing my career. But these are the things that, they make us more busy. And the reason why we like being more busy is so that we don't have to deal with our emotions. It starts to bring in those addictive behaviors, I start to get into a little bit more alcohol. Maybe some people start to get into a little bit more drugs, or maybe some people, they always bring in social situations so that they can hang out with different people, so that they're not by themselves, because they're so scared of being by themselves because then they have to really face how they feel about different things. And maybe they start having cruddy relationships with different people because they're all trying to mask those feelings of shame or unworthiness. So we're just doing things so that we can feel like we are avoiding those feelings of shame. The only problem is when we mask all those different feelings, we miss out on joy. Because we can't kind of choose what emotions we want to feel in those different times because you're busy. You're busy trying to do all these different things. So like all of the joy that we could experience all go out the window. So what is it that we can do? And this is something that I've been reading a little bit more into, and it's something that I've been currently working on with my counselor as well. Or actually, it's been something that I've been working on with my counselor for a very, very long time. And the acronym is RAIN. So RAIN. So it's recognize, allow, investigate, and then nurture. Now, something I want you to think about with all of these different things is just remember that we need to feel a little bit more and we need to be with ourselves a little bit more. So if we think about mindfulness and compassion, which are things that I talk about on this podcast so much, they come into each of these different steps. And proper mindfulness and proper compassion and all that sort of stuff. Like I said, if we are a little bit nicer to ourselves, we actually achieve more goals than we think we will. And the reason we do that is because we actually start to do work that is has purpose behind it, and it's purpose driven. And we're not doing things, so we're doing things to progress things that we actually enjoy and we actually love. We're not doing things to avoid failure, or we're not doing things to keep up some sort of persona that, this is who I am, this is my identity, and I'm keeping that up as well, just for the facade of what it looks like on the outside. Right? So the first one, and this is going to hit people in the heart a little bit because I feel like we all hide from our emotions a little bit. I remember when I did this one on mindfulness and I did this one on meditation, and talking to different people about meditation and maybe getting into it, and they would just all be like, oh yeah, I tried meditation, but my head just races too much. And I'm like, fuck, that's exactly why you should be meditating. That's the overall goal of meditation, is so that you can help organize those thoughts, or that so you can help, observe what's going on in your mind. Why are these thoughts arising? Are these thoughts from the future, or are they thoughts from the past? So I was just like, case in point in your own statement. But anyway, this is why it's so important, because we need to be where we are. But RAIN, recognize. So that's the feeling that comes, right? And whatever that feeling is, so say you have anxiety. If you're thinking about the future quite a bit, you can just, oh man, I'm starting to feel anxiety. I'm starting to feel it. Now, the first step is recognizing that, and that's also like anything else. You've got to acknowledge that it's actually happening. And now what happens after you recognize negative emotions, and this is something that we talked about in the controlling emotions episode. With this, I think what happens is people start to feel like, oh man, I'm a failure for having these, like, oh no, I'm having anxiety, panic, freak out, don't want to do this anymore. What if I told you, if you had compassion and you actually cared about why it is that you're starting to feel this anxiety, because this stuff comes up for a reason. You're feeling this for a reason. It's not because you're a bad person. It's because biologically or physiologically, evolutionarily, something happened that caused you to start to feel that way. And maybe it's that you haven't prepped enough for something in the future. And that's usually what it is. Or maybe it's that you feel like the work that you've put into something is not enough to actually get you the result that you wanted, or the result that you thought other people wanted of you. So you know what I'm going to tell you to do? Allow those emotions to play out. Feel it a little bit. Don't just mask it by doing other things like, oh man, I'm anxious because I haven't done enough. So you start to run yourself into the wall and you're just hitting your head into that brick wall because you're just like, I haven't done enough. I need to do more. And you just keep going through and you're actually stressed and you're not actually surveying what the heck's actually happening. You've gone into that tunnel vision mode and you're not actually looking at the different options that are available. So why don't you just sit back a little bit? Allow those thoughts to come over. Just let it happen. Don't try to suppress it. And accept it with judgment. Without judgment, no, don't ever accept it with judgment, because when you start judging yourself and you start thinking you're a piece of shit, that's when it gets bad. But just sit there, feel it. I'm having these feelings. Okay, this is what it feels like to feel that. And then investigate it. So it's coming into that second part of investigation. Start to feel it out. What's it doing to your body? Where in your body's getting tight? Okay, so when I get anxious, I start to, now that I'm here and I'm not judging that I'm getting anxious, what am I start to feeling? Oh man, my throat starts to clench up a little bit. Ah man, my muscles. My shoulders are rising. Right, so this is not the investigation in terms of like looking at other things that have happened that cause you to get anxious. It's not like, oh man, it's because my father didn't love me back. It's not that. It's more looking inwards. Not looking at external things, but looking at things inside yourself that you start to feel. How many of you have actually sat with yourself and started to feel feelings? It's great. It's honestly really, really good. And then the compassion side of it, again, comes through the nurture. So this is where you got to remind yourself that it's okay. And the reason why we use this tactic is because everyone knows, all I ever wanted was to be told that I was okay. It's all I ever need from some people. And I know that it's a bit of a burden on some people, but I just, I always ask, are we okay? Is this going to be okay? Are we okay? Are you okay? Are you not okay? Is it because of me? But everything is going to be okay. And if you can nurture yourself and be comfortable with, okay, you feel these thoughts, you feel these feelings, that's fine. And you're going to be okay. All right? It might be a little bit rough, might be a little bit rocky. It's not going to be easy, but we're going to be okay. And that's that nurturing side. That's that sending that kind message. Maybe you need to put your hand on your shoulder, put your hand on your heart, and just start to go through those nurturing kind of actions to make you feel like it is going to be okay. So that's, just to bring you there. And then so like I said, all through that, the mindfulness and the compassion, it turns out attention inwards, right? So we're always looking for things to kind of mask all these different feelings that we're having, all these negative emotions that we feel, all these different things. We try to mask those things. But maybe if we just spent a little bit of a time with ourselves and we're actually a little bit nicer to ourselves, we'll actually be able to get through it. And if you're in the present with those feelings that you're feeling, when it starts to come up again, maybe you can start to look at everything that's happening. Did I have to react the way that I was? And the reason we're so reactive is because we get these feelings and we just try to mask it straight away. We don't handle it. We're not proactive with how we go about things. We're just reacting, and we're all reacting to everyone. Every single person you come into contact with is probably just as agitated as you are. So if you both are on the reaction and you're just reacting to one another, bam, of course you're going to have a problem. And then you're going to start hating that person, and it's just going to start spiraling into a bunch of things. I always think about this as like the two magnets. When you have two magnets that are like the same side, they're the opposites of each other, and they just push each other away. You try to put them closer, but the closer and closer they get, they actually start to like, I don't want to go together. No, not today. But if you turn one around and it's two opposites, bam, they go together. Right? So because we're all thinking that exact same thing. We're all thinking that repel state. We're all thinking, okay, this person already thinks I'm a piece of shit. This person already thinks I'm not good enough to be able to do all this. And also, oh, wait, I'm lying to her. I can't be intimate with this person because they're going to find out that I'm actually, I'm actually not as good as they think I am. And that's that whole, that's just everything about not being in the moment. And that's all that fear-based living, rather than just being okay with everything that you are feeling. So we need to stop living in the future. We need to stop living in the past. And we need to start thinking about why it is that we act the way that we act. So, actually, this is a really good one. Example, if you think about being late, a lot of it is fear that we aren't good enough and need to, get back to work to be productive. But that's bullshit, right? It makes us feel better because we can blame someone else for our anger. And that's because, something made us late. When you're late, we like to blame everything else in the room that happened, right? We blame someone else and we can put all these different things on other people. But the reason why we fear being late is because we have this fear that we are not good enough and that it's kind of getting in the way of our production or our productivity and how other people perceive us. So if we're coming in late, people are like, oh, unreliable, all that sort of stuff. But if we can start trusting ourselves and trust that we are good enough, we can own that. Yes, I was late. I'm sorry. But I can make up for that. And you don't need to blame anyone. Bam. Confidence. Right there. So now that you know that we need to go through rain, we're actually going to look at different things that people do to keep themselves nice and in the present. So this was nice. Everyone wrote in and got into me with this. Sorry, I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore, but as always, I don't know what I'm talking about. But here we are. So what people do to keep themselves in the present and start to feel things out. So one is conversations with my mum and being out in nature. And that is from April. And nature, it does beautiful things. I think when you're out in nature, it gives you some sort of perspective. It really starts to make you feel like you are insignificant in this world in the best way possible. All those thoughts that we have in our head, all those different things that we're thinking and all those feelings that we go through, they're so small compared to everything when you're actually out in nature. So that's beautiful. Breathing consciously by Ganantha, and that's so true. Sometimes to bring me back into the present, I like to count my breaths in, like 4 seconds in, hold for 2, and then out for another 4. And then that way, because you're thinking about breathing, you can't have your thoughts anywhere else. And the cool thing with that is that you start to feel your chest rise. You start to feel like your body come into contact with the different clothes around you. If you're sitting, you start to feel the back touch different parts of the chair. You get heavier in different points. And from there, you're actually where you are in that moment. So very good suggestion there. Ben, he says, spending time with friends and talking about what's happening with them, it helps me get out of my own head. That's true sometimes, but making sure that you're not always just talking to other people so that you can avoid what you're actually thinking about, right? So you're not using this as a scapegoat. You're not just going like, oh man, I'm going to go hang out with these people. Oh, tomorrow I've got a little bit of downtime. I'm going to go get coffee with this person. Yes, okay, you can do that sometimes, but making sure that you also give yourself that time to be able to reflect on everything that's going on. Appreciate your man. Tali says, knowing that my family are always a phone call away to help pull my head in. And that's so true. You have those accountability people, and they have to be people that you trust. They have to be people that you would listen to anyway, because I do feel like a lot of the time, we do go listen to a whole bunch of different people, and these are people who make us feel inadequate because they don't know much about you, and they start to give you all this different advice, and you're just like, do you know me, bro? So yeah, thank you. Very good for that. Reading and cleaning, that's good because you're right there, you're there doing what you're doing. And when you're reading, you're in a story, and that's nice because it takes your mind away from all the things that you should be doing, and it's actually you're in that story. And then cleaning as well because you're being productive, but you're also the one doing that labor. Appreciate it. Driving and listening to my favorite songs. Like I said, with the driving, you have to be in the moment, otherwise things could go crazy. And then listening to your favorite songs, that always brings you, that familiarity, something where you feel like everything's going to be okay. And when you feel okay, you feel safe, and you can start to really feel like, oh yeah, this is where I'm meant to be. I feel that. Definitely the topics of every episode. Appreciate you. Really appreciate you. Thank you so much for that. And last one, my family, because they're always prepared to humble me. Now that's bringing you back to where you are. That's bringing you back down to earth. So if you're starting to get a little bit of ahead of yourself, having that family there, and they are the best at it. I tell you that. It's just like what I said last episode, or the last episode of last year on my solo. I basically just said that my entire family, they treat me like I am. I go home, I do the dishes, I do all that sort of stuff. So cool. Thank you for everyone who wrote in. And now what I want to do is I just want to play you something that I had said to myself on my way down in my car ride. And this is what it could be like to call in to the podcast. So check this out, and then I'm going to address this young fella, and then we are going to take it out. So thank you so much for riding with me so far. Anyway, thank you. Caller, hit me. We are having...
Kia ora, Troy. This is you. but it's also, this is Troy as well, but talking to yourself. I'm from Wellington, and I'm currently heading to Dunedin because that is where I work. And this is an example of what it could be like if you were to call into the podcast. However, this is also a really good time just to say, you've probably told everyone that on your drive down to Dunedin was actually really beautiful and such a nice time to be by yourself. But right now, being the person who's coming down, I can tell you there's a lot of anxiety and just kind of freaking out. I guess the uncertainty of what's to come, and there's just a lot of anticipation because going into a big year, and I've just had one of the best summers that I've had since forever. So right now I guess the feelings that I have is I'm excited, but I also have my heart in my ass and my throat. So like it's making it hard to swallow. And when I do start to talk about it, you get that little lumpy thing in your throat, and my eyes start to water a bit. So I might need some antihistamines, or I might be emotionally distressed. But I hope you can get that routine together. Let me know how that's all going. And I suggest to anyone else, this is quite therapeutic. So even if you just record it and don't send it to me, definitely give it a go. Have a talk, lay your thoughts out. So all the best, man. Don't listen to too much 21 Savage, and love you.
I love you too, bro, and I love me. I guess that's because I'm talking to myself, and that is a young male there from Wellington, and obviously that young male was me. But that's what it could be like if you do call into the podcast, and that was just a classic example of me, recognizing what was happening in my body, allowing myself to have those thoughts and have those feelings, but then also investigating what it feels like in my body and starting to realize that they're happening, and just reminding myself that things are going to be okay. Things were going to be fine, and that I'm going to get that routine in place. And once I do get that routine in place, I'm able to thrive from that point. So that's what it could be. And if you want to send those in, please do. I know I was all over the place in this episode. I just feel so rusty. I feel like, my thoughts just didn't come to me as great as I thought they would, but I do hope you take quite a bit away from this one. Just please reach out to me if you do need anything. I do have some exciting things coming up. I had some really cool guests over the summer, but I appreciate you all so much. I didn't know how much I was going to be podcasting this year, and I really want to grow it. I do want to grow it, and I love doing it so much. So thank you for everyone for your continuous support, and I love you all so much. And just to have this privilege to be able to come on and talk to people, and I get to go through my own thoughts on this entire podcast, and I come out every time feeling lighter, and it's never a burden. I love doing it so much. So that's been another episode of Good to Be Here podcast. It's slowly transitioning, definitely slowly transitioning, but what I want you to do is, if you can, join the Facebook group, and if you can, go give us love to everyone who has been supporting the podcast. Give us a 5-star rating on the Apple app if you use that, but if you're on Spotify, share it with your boys. Share it with your fam. Share it with your pets. Share it with someone. And practice all of these different things. So this is part 2 of a 4-part series of showing more compassion and being more mindful and actually being able to live kind of a happier, healthier lifestyle. So I hope that's helped. I will be sending more out for hitting the hotline, so please get in with me if you can. And other than that, please enjoy yourselves. And I'm sorry this one was all over the place, but it's good to be back. It's really, really good to be back, and I just need to warm up a little bit more next time, but it's all right. We're here, you're here, and I love you all. All right, SG, take us out.
Hey, microphone, mic check, 1, 2. It's gonna be alright. See the CD got me feeling free, living life with a sight on eternity. No longer bound by the shackles I'm found. I'm living your pride, not hearing my sound. It is a melody of hallelujah to my enemies. Cause Psalms at 23, my shepherd farming heavenly. For you are with me, I fear no evil. There is no secret, we are your people that ain't in piety. Just a grace that inspires me, changed by the face of the man who's died for me. Taking my place with the love that defiance. He came face to face with that dove, now we Siamese. And I believe that was a fire breathe. Holy Spirit flowing moment, thanking God for what I see. Hey, way more than propriety that got up on the universe. He really died for you and me. But he rose in, it's like they got me talking light. And it's gonna be alright.